Hi, everyone. We're going to get started now. I want to thank everyone for joining the RYR1 Foundation today for our webinar, Nutrition in Neuromuscular Diseases. I'm happy to introduce our speakers, Daniela Grote, MS from the Center for Nutritional Medicine and Prevention at Barmherziger Bruder Hospital in Munich, and Jessica Nieves, MSRD-LD from Nationwide Children's Hospital. They will be covering this important topic with us over about the next hour. If you have any questions during this presentation, please enter them in the question box and we'll do our best to address as many as possible at the end of the webinar. Please understand that due to time constraints, we may not be able to answer every question. We appreciate your understanding and we hope you enjoy the webinar. Daniela and Jessica, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Hi, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Jessica Nieves. In our presentation, we are going to cover general healthy nutrition, a protein section and supplements, bone health, and then we will have time for questions at the end. And thank you for submitting your questions. We did get those ahead of time as well, and we will address them in the presentation. Before I start, I did want to talk about quickly what the role of a dietitian is in clinic. I work in the neuromuscular clinic with both pediatric and adult patients. Our big role in our clinic is evaluating a patient's nutritional status, so their anthropometric weight, height, certain lab values. We look at diet patterns, any comorbidities, assessing patients' goals, any resources to provide, and readiness for change. We also work with our medical team and help provide recommendations. So now for our general healthy nutrition, kind of to give a little background for macronutrients. So all foods are made up of macronutrients. Every food is one or several combination of these, and we'll talk about these a little bit. But all foods have calories, and when you look at this, one thing to note is kind of they play different sources in our bodies. There's a lot of different types of foods you can choose, and the calories differ. So carbohydrates, 4 calories per gram, protein, 4 calories per gram. Lipids are our fats, and those are our most energy dense, meaning they have the most calories per gram. So they are 9 calories per gram. That's one of the reasons we will say kind of to use fats sparingly because they can add a lot of calories even at a small volume. And then we will talk about protein in a further section. Part of the carbohydrates that we wanted to talk about was fiber. We got a few questions about fiber. Fiber is important for adults, for kids, and there's a lot of different food groups that you can get fiber from. So these are some few examples and the amounts for men and for women. One of the big things to point out, so all fruits and all vegetables have fiber. So choosing the ones that you enjoy. Popcorn is a high fiber. Any whole wheat pasta, cereal, bread, tortilla, and then there are some protein sources that also have fiber, mainly seeds, nuts, chia seeds, and then also beans and lentils and legumes all have both fiber and protein. And then part of the sources for all fruits and vegetables are also carbohydrates. So we want to choose carbohydrates that contain fiber and that also give us some fruits and vegetables. So Fruit and vegetables give us different amounts of vitamins and minerals. They are high antioxidants. Certain fruits are higher than others. So berries are very high in certain antioxidants, but all fruits and veggies are high in antioxidants and different plant compounds. Um, Also, different vitamins and minerals. Fruits and vegetables, if you include them in your diet, and when you look at studies, um, people who eat a diet with a lot of fruits and vegetables, they have lower risk of certain cancers, lower risk of heart disease, heart attack and stroke, lower risk of type 2 diabetes, and a lower overall mortality. Um, with our fat section, so lipids or fats, we did get a question about omega-3 fatty acids. And the overarching recommendation is 2 servings of fish per week is recommended. The table shows us the amount. So it has the amount, the sources. So you can kind of see a lot of different types of fish or seafood. Uh, and these give us our omega-3 fatty acids. There are a lot of different healthy fats. Um, Kind of the other two to touch on fish. So a lot of people take fish oil supplements, but you can also get those same from eating fish or seafood. If you're allergic or do not eat a lot of seafood or fish, there are some new products that have fortified with omega-3 fatty acids. Some eggs are fortified. Some milks are fortified now, and even some pastas. So a little bit extra choices if you're not eating a ton of seafood. Um, Other good options of plant sources, oh, sorry, are flaxseed oil, canola, olive, soybean, or walnut oils. So there are a lot of questions about like which oil is best to use or which fat is source is better. We do recommend focusing on uh, fatty acids from fish, and then certain plant food sources. There's a lot of options for healthy oils that you can add when you're cooking, or you can add it to things like once you're done preparing the food. We really like this representation. This is from the Canadian My Plate. So this is kind of as a template. So I really like this when I'm thinking about planning meals. So kind of like lunch and dinner. Um, the biggest kind of focus is trying to add fruits and vegetables. So a goal of half of your plate being fruits or vegetables. And it can be any type. So it can be fresh, it could be frozen, even canned. So kind of trying to think if you're trying to plan a meal, half of that fruits and vegetables. The other 25% protein. And you'll see on the plate, it's not just animal sources of protein, it's a lot of plant-based sources. So we have beans, we have nuts, we have seeds, we have fish, and even some dairy on there as well. So really trying to include, it can be, you can have a healthy vegetarian type diet. You can get enough protein from those type of diets. There are a lot of plant-based sources for proteins. Um, we'll talk a little bit about a Mediterranean type of diet, but the Mediterranean type of diet really does focus on fish, seafood, and plant-based sources of protein as well. And then the other 25% of your plate is choosing whole grain foods or those carbohydrates with fiber. So, a lot of different options. So we have bread, noodles, rice, quinoa, a lot of options that kind of depending on what foods you enjoy, you could add those to your plate. Um, and fruits, vegetables, and nuts. And also the other thing I really like is trying to make water your drink of choice. So for the majority of time, choosing water for hydration as part of your drink with your meal. Uh, Additional recommendations, these kind of fall in line again with the Mediterranean type diet. So choosing fish more often than red meat, fish or seafood. Um, Really trying to add legumes, beans at least once a week. So trying to add it as part of your protein source or with your meals. And again, with like nuts and seeds, trying to add those to your meals. And they also make a great snack. So, and part of the messaging with the Canadian My Plate is that healthy eating is just not is more than the foods you eat. So trying to really focus on being mindful of the choices you make. Um, doesn't mean every meal is going to be perfect or you have to, measure out every meal. But just really being mindful of the choices you're making the majority of the time. So one thing that can really help with that is cooking more often. So making the meals at home. Um, a lot of kids really enjoy cooking as well. I found in our clinic, a lot of kids, they're interested. Like sometimes they can't do everything, but a lot of kids really do enjoy kind of being part of that prep. So cooking more often, you have more control of what you're adding, what you're not adding in your foods. Trying to enjoy your foods. So eating, sitting down for a meal with your family, that is super important. And trying to help, especially with your kids, trying to help them enjoy different types of foods and just help them develop kind of their preference and choices. Eating your meal, like sitting down to dinner as a family and eating together. Another thing I will add, kind of with eating your meals, we've also been focusing on limiting screens. So for kids and I guess older kiddos as well, really focus on when you're having a meal and you're sitting down for your meal, limiting screens during the meals. It can help you be more mindful of the amount you're eating, the portions you're eating, and really focus on eating. And that has been, there's been a little bit of research about making sure kids are not eating with screens because it can lead to overeating or kind of a distracted eating that can block hunger cues. Uh, with estimating calorie needs, so the we did get a question about this as well. So there's a lot of different factors that impact energy. So kind of energy or the calories you need. Your age, so younger kids have much higher calorie needs. They're growing, so a lot of kids are getting taller, so that impacts it. Their gender, so men and women, their height, so taller kids are going to have higher needs, what they weigh. And then the biggest thing is the physical activity level, so your mobility. Um, in general, if you have decreased mobility or a harder time with mobility, that is really going to impact calorie needs. For the most part, it will decrease calorie if your mobility is decreased. Um, Another factor is that can affect how much calories you burn. So muscle tone, spasticity. So if you're hypotonic, that can affect your calorie needs. If you are on any type of respiratory support or on a ventilator, that will also impact calorie needs. Um, I do work with a lot of families that do require some type of feeding tube, either supplement or total for nutrition. And there's a lot of different factors that can impact how many calories you need. Um, the Probably my biggest recommendation is to have a close follow up and monitor weight trends, especially if it's something new. So if you're started on some type of respiratory support that you were not on before, uh, you need close monitoring because that can affect your calorie needs. And so that needs an adjustment. So you might have a period where you need very close follow up to have that adjustment period so you're not getting too many calories, or on the other side, you're not getting enough calories and you're losing a lot of weight. Okay. So I will pass this along. This section is going to be done by Daniela.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thanks, Lina, for introducing me. My name, as she already said, is Daniela Grote. I'm located in Germany and my mother tongue is German, so please excuse me if I'm sometimes missing some words or something. Yeah, but I will start to talk about the protein section here, one of the most important things when you have a neuromuscular disease. Yeah, I will talk about the protein amount, the protein sources, and yeah, we will just start right into it. There are many different reasons why we need protein. And I think the first reason that comes to everybody's mind is immediately muscle growth, of course. Protein is like the building, like the basic block for building muscle, like a building block. But it also repairs the body tissue. So when you look at a cell in the body, our body is made of many, many, many cells. Every cell is, when you leave out the water, is made 50% out of protein. So we need actually protein for our whole body, not only for the muscles. So we also need it for the bones. The body produces out of protein enzymes and hormones. We need it for the immune system so that you don't get sick so often. It also helps to feel full. For example, when you don't eat enough protein or have no protein on your plate, Jessica just showed this, my plate from Canada. If you leave out this protein section, you will be hungry much faster or don't even feel full after a meal, even if you have enough calories. Yeah, and this is also supporting weight management because it's promoting your satiety. And also when you're, sorry, can you get one back? And when you're also on a weight loss diet, it helps preserving the muscle, which is also very important then. Yeah. Okay, so everybody's asking, but how much? How much protein do we need? For your specific disease that you are dealing with, there is no specific recommendation on a daily protein intake. That's why we stick to the recommendation of the RDA, and here in Germany, it's the same recommendation. Adults need at least 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight per day. So 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So you can just calculate it this yourself. And when we are talking about a neuromuscular disease and we know there is not enough evidence to have a specific recommendation, you definitely need more than this. We can still say that 1 gram per kilogram body weight per day is a bit safer. We don't have to be at the lowest level of the protein amount. We can go to 1 gram per kilogram body weight per day. And this would be, for example, when you're weighing 70 kilos, 70 grams of protein per day. When you are an older person, so when you are above the age of 65 years, then there is a higher protein recommendation because in older adults, the utilization of the protein for the body is not as good as it used to be anymore. So adults which are above the age of 75 need to get at least 1.2 grams of kilo body weight per day. And what is also important is not the amount, how much you need in general, but also how, like, when do you eat it? The recommendation is to distribute it over the day in 2 or 3 meals, because you could see in studies that when a meal had at least 20 grams of protein in it, that there was a higher muscle protein synthesis. That doesn't mean that people who do this definitely will have more muscle strength. There are much more factors. For example, if you use the muscles that you have and keep them active. But it is something that you could see in studies, that when you have 20 grams of protein in your meal, that drives that's a very huge anabolic stimulus for the muscle protein synthesis. And there are some recommendations where you can see where this is included. I'm not sure if I can do this. Yeah, you can see this, right? Yeah, I underlined it. Okay, perfect. All right, yeah, next slide, please. I mean, oh, no, okay, now it stays there. Okay, no, we don't want it. Yeah, good. Yeah, so here we got a table where you can see some protein-rich foods. Of course, we got plant protein, we got nuts and seeds, as Jessica already mentioned, but we also got soy products. We got tofu, tempeh, edamame. These are all very good foods. I think they're much more common in Germany than in the US, but there's nothing wrong with it. So don't be hesitant to use them in your daily diet. And also legumes, beans, lentils, chickpeas. They are just a very healthy protein source because they also got this amazing fiber. Jessica mentioned that it's very good for your gut health, and this is something that we cannot underestimate. Gut health is a topic that is only developing. We don't know so much about it, but we know enough that we know fiber is very important, and legumes have protein and fiber, so they're a very good protein source. On the other side, we also have the animal protein. We have seafood and lean meat, and also dairy, cheese. Cottage cheese, for example, is also a good protein source. Talking about weight management, if you have low mobility and you have to count calories or something, or you have to be conscious about calories, then cottage cheese or plain Greek yogurt or skyr is a helpful animal protein source, which is has a high quality protein and not so many calories. Cheese is not bad. So we're not saying cheese is bad. It's just when you have low mobility and have to look on the calories, that's a good option. And also eggs, of course. Yeah, next slide, please. So when you're in the supermarket, I mean, you can try to memorize this table I just talked about, but more important is that when you're in the supermarket, that you get used to checking the nutrition facts label yourself. So just you take food and you turn it, and on the back side of the package, you can see this table there. And in the red circle, you could see how much protein is inside this food that you have. It is according, it is the amount per serving. So yeah, then you can see how much does my yogurt have, how much protein does the cheese have. You can also compare different brands with each other and then just pick the one that suits you, that tastes good and also has more protein than the other. Yeah. What I just talked about was we were talking about numbers and sources, like how much do you need, where is it in it, where is it in which foods. But there is also another thing that we got to talk about when we talk about protein, and that is the quality of the protein. it's not just the amount of the protein in the food that matters, but also the quality of that protein. Because protein is actually built out of amino acids. So we got essential amino acids and we got not essential amino acids. Maybe there are some people in your community that know already so much about what we are talking here, but it's very important to get the basics right. So I just want to repeat this. It is important that you have a high quality protein with enough of the essential amino acids, because the essential amino acids the body cannot produce itself. We have to eat it. And the good thing is when you get a high quality protein, this contains enough of all the essential amino acids. So it has all the acids, I think 9 essential amino acids are out there, and you have to have the right amount of it. And the high quality protein has all of them, and it has enough of them. I put in there this graphic of the building blocks on the left side. So maybe it's easier for you to imagine how this looks like. The building blocks are the amino acids. So we have different ones, like yellow ones, we have red ones, we have blue ones, green, other colors. And depending on how you build them up, you get a different protein. So this is how it works in the body. Yeah, so next slide. Talking about high quality protein, which food has the best high quality protein? The first thing that we have to say is that regarding this topic, animal protein is superior. Animal protein has more high quality protein because it's much more similar to our body protein. Of course, animals are more similar to us than plants, which is logic. So animal protein has more high quality protein. But plants have healthy fiber in addition to protein. Our body is not only consisting, our body is consisting out of more things than protein. We also, as mentioned, need the fiber for our gut microbiome, which is also a very important basis for our general health. So our recommendation would be to combine the plant protein and the animal protein. And when you are vegan, when you are excluding animal products from your diet, then a very important advice would be to combine legumes and grains. This is also something that non-vegans or vegetarians, that everybody can do, but especially for vegans, this is very important because you might be deficient in protein in general and in the essential amino acids. And to make sure you have more, like to lower the risk of being deficient in an amino acid, yeah, thanks. You got to combine the legumes and the grains because the legumes have, for example, these in this table, the amino acid A, amino acid B, but they fall short of amino acid C and D. On the other side, grains have the opposite strength and weaknesses, so they are complementary, they make a good match, so you can just combine it. For example, when we think about the nutrition or the diet in Latin America or in India a couple 100 years ago, or even nowadays, the traditional meal is a grain, for example, rice, with a legume, beans or lentils. Also in Germany, there's a traditional dish called lentil soup with bread. And also there we can see the legumes, the lentils are compared with the grains, the bread. So this is something that people used to do intuitively over hundreds of years already. Yeah, and talking about protein quality, choosing a dairy product, then we get the advice, you can look at the phrases like hay milk, grass-fed milk, or pasture-raised, because these are products, dairy products, that are from cows, which spend a lot of time outside on the grass and in the sun. And of course, this is better for the animal. They are happier, but it also has much better fatty acids because the cows produce better milk and better meat when they are eating grass, actually. Yeah, so this is also a tip for some of you who are looking for high quality products. Okay. Yeah, some example for a protein-rich meal. When you think about, okay, nice recommendation, but how can I implement this in my daily life? One example and one recommendation would be to start with a cereal, like mixed oats cereal or other flakes with plain Greek yogurt or skyr instead of milk, because it has more protein than milk does. And it's a very nice start in the day because you can customize it with delicious fruits, nuts, seeds, whatever you like and whatever tastes well. You can also add some cocoa powder or cinnamon, yeah, whatever you like. And you can enjoy it fresh or let it soak overnight. And it has a lot of protein, it has fiber, minerals, and vitamins. So it's a very good start into the day. And the next one would be the protein-rich pizza. I don't think you can buy it yet in the supermarket, so you gotta do this yourself. But as Jessica recommended to let your kids be part in the kitchen, this is something that would be a nice thing to like an event you could plan with the kids. You can make the dough of the pizza base with chickpea flour with egg, with skyr or cottage cheese. I'm sure there are recipes out there for it. So the pizza base is not only carbohydrates, but also has some protein. And then you can top it up with plenty of vegetables, whatever you like. Add some cheese, mozzarella, some meat or fish. And this is your extra protein portion. And yeah, just enjoy it. It also has a lot of protein, fiber, and vitamins and minerals, and it's also a good lunch or dinner. Yeah, these are just some ideas for more protein. You can read them for yourself. You got the recording. So I will save some time for the rest of the presentation. Yeah, because now we get to talk about supplements. I think supplements is one one of the hot topics nowadays in general, and specifically when you have a chronic disease. Talking about protein powder, if you ask yourself if you need it, then short answer, if you can meet your protein needs through the natural diet, then you definitely don't need a protein powder, because whole foods are always better. But if you can't meet your protein needs through your natural diet, then yes, a protein powder is very beneficial and definitely recommended. Yeah, in the next slide, we can see what is important when you choose a protein powder. So if you see, okay, I don't have enough, I don't get to this 1 grams of per kilogram body weight per day of protein in your natural diet, then you can have a look and see what's out there. We got asked for a recommendation of a protein powder, but unfortunately there are so many out there, we cannot give a recommendation. But when you review the brands that you have, here are some tips, some advice for choosing a good product. And the first thing that you can look out for is whey protein, because whey protein has all the essential amino acids and enough, like a lot of all the essential amino acids. So whey protein is superior over other protein powders. But if you want to choose a vegan protein powder, if you're eating vegan, the next best option would be to take a protein powder made out of soy, 100% soy, because that's the next best option. And if you don't want to take soy, then just take one with a mixture of rice or hemp or pea protein. There are so many protein recommendation, like protein sources out there. But take different sources because they are also complementing each other. And it's important to get 2 to 3 grams of leucine per portion. Yeah, and also make sure that there are no, or at least as little as possible additives and sweeteners. We don't know what they do to our bodies, so leave them out as best as possible. And you can also choose to make your own protein shake yourself, like made out of milk, buttermilk, kefir, fruits, vegetables, yeah, and so on. Also, we get a collagen powder question, but please don't make the mistake and leave the protein powder away and take the collagen powder. That's nonsense because the collagen powder doesn't have the essential amino acids. It's not made for building muscle. It's good for the skin, but it's not for the muscle. So stick to the protein powder if you need it. Good. Next, please. Yeah, I will just talk about this very shortly because I just had a look at the time. We only got 10 minutes. So creatine, it's a very big topic. There is some evidence for, in general, muscular dystrophies, but not for congenital muscle disease, not for RYR1 diseases. But there are just little side effects if you take it. You can read them there. What is important? When you take creatine, talk to your doctor first. In every case, talk to your doctor first, because if you get a problem with the kidney, creatine usage is not recommended. But if you don't have this health issue, and if your doctor doesn't have anything against it, I think there is nothing that stands against trying creatine, because as I said, in muscular dystrophies, it had some small but significant effect on the muscle strength, and you don't lose anything if you just try it out. But yeah, talk to a physician. And on the next slide, you can see how to dosage it. Very important is also that you take pure creatine monohydrate, because there are some products out there which have other additional stuff, sweetness and so. And if you take them regularly, you just want the clean stuff. And yeah, that's it for the creatine part. I can, if there are more questions, let us know at the end of the webinar. There is a paper about this topic from the German Muscle Association. If you want this, I can send this to Lina, and it's in German, but you can translate it. And it's talking about the creatine in much more detail. I think it's 3 or 4 pages. Yeah, next please. And yeah, okay, that's it already. Perfect. Then I will hand over to Jessica again.
Okay, great. So I am going to talk about bone health. I apologize for, I am going to kind of move through the slides a little quickly because I also didn't realize our time is almost up. In neuromuscular disorders, vitamin D and calcium are one of the trace elements that are very important. Vitamin D and calcium for bone health, probably one of the biggest things. Vitamin D, typically in our clinic, we try to measure vitamin D levels at least once a year and then base supplementation off the levels of vitamin. So whatever your levels are, if you're deficient, we would base it off that. But we do like to monitor vitamin D levels at least once a year. A deficiency can cause rickets or osteomalacia in adults and children. These are the recommendations for adults and some food sources. The majority of people, so I'm in Ohio, the majority of people in Ohio probably do not get enough vitamin D. And so trying to include those sources is important. Calcium is our other big one. Again, for bones, because it mineralization of bones and teeth. Recommendations of sources, and the amount per day. I really like this calcium bank skeleton. If you see this picture, you see one skeleton that looks pretty like a strong, solid, and then you'll see one that looks like a lot of holes. It looks rigid. So your calcium balance is what you have in your skeleton. So the biggest thing for us is you have to replenish your calcium bank, because if you do not eat enough of it, then your body will leach it from your skeleton. So that's why your bones can get brittle if you're not eating enough calcium, not getting enough vitamin D. Your bone mineralization can be lower and you can get osteoporosis, you can break a bone. Um, it's a common reason why in elderly people they lose height. Basically, your body will leach it out of your bones. Calcium blood levels are not recommended because it's not an indicator of your bone health or bone density. The best indicator for bone density is doing a DEXA, a bone density scan. With osteoporosis, in our clinic, we focus a lot about it because a lot of our patients are on glucocorticoids or steroids, and that puts you at a risk factor. If you have lower mobility, if you're in a wheelchair, that puts you at a risk factor because that is one of the risk factors, mobility, low mobility. We try to focus on making sure your diet has a lot of fruits and vegetables, you have adequate calcium and vitamin D. And if you're not able to get enough from your diet through eating, then we do recommend supplementation for calcium and vitamin D. Our biggest take home message would be so protein, the importance of protein. Daniela went over a ton of sources, animal, plant-based of protein. The other thing we kind of didn't touch too much about, but doing physical activity that you're capable of to support your muscles. So, kind of if there's any limitations, obviously, like seeing a physical therapist, talking with your doctor, but any type of physical activity that you're safely able to do is going to be beneficial for your muscles. Our other message that we hope to share is to not let yourself get too stressed over nutrition. And meaning that not every meal is going to be perfect, and that's okay. Um, the other big thing is that we did get a lot of questions about supplements and things that people can take. And looking at the majority of research that has been done, that says, this antioxidant is beneficial, it's from foods. So majority of research is from whole foods, or in studies, they're also called functional foods. But basically, it's like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts. It's the actual food. It's not just the component of the food. So we hope our big take home message is that you focus on the food over the individual supplements or the individual component of the food. So for me, that means like you need to focus on the food and the food you're eating, instead of like this individual supplement, because the studies don't support. Typically, most of the studies are looking at foods. So a lot of antioxidant studies look at like adding foods with antioxidant in people's diets, and then they monitor what happens. They're not just giving them a pill with antioxidants. So that's kind of our main, hopefully one of the take home things. And then, Daniela also stressed the importance of If you cannot eat enough protein, then yes, doing a protein supplementation. So I will pause for any questions, and then we're happy to answer. And I think, Lena, if there's any questions that came up in a chat as well.
So the first question we have is, please discuss the role of antioxidants in supplementation in the context of RYR1.
Yeah, I think that's something that Jessica just talked about. I think, yeah, it's easier maybe if we just pick the questions that we didn't answer already. Yeah, maybe Jessica, you can say something about the question supporting healthy growth for our 3-year-old with central core disease. And yeah, maybe you can just say that.
So yes, I did see that question, and um, it's kind of a tough question to answer. I would love to, probably in order to best answer that is looking at current growth. So looking at the growth chart and looking at um, how your child is doing. Like, are they gaining weight? Is length coming up? Um, but typically, we expect kids to be um, in a similar trajectory to other kids where we want them to be gaining weight, getting taller, and not falling off growth percentile. So, kind of going up, not staying this or this. So that would be my best. um, and then there was another question. About promoting good digestion. I just saw. Um, so with digestion, I will say like a big thing of that is probiotics. So kind of what Danielle was talking about. Um, Eating foods that have a good amount of probiotics. There is a lot of ongoing research about that. A lot of digestion is hard if you are wheelchair bound. So, if you're wheelchair bound, a lot of digestion is gravity. So, fiber, again, I think we talked about that a lot, making sure you're getting enough fiber, enough hydration, and that you're having bowel movements on a regular basis.
I think I can add something there. I don't know if you use this in your clinics, Jessica, but we use, if you have constipation, of course, drinking enough is very important, doing the activity that you can. But if you're wheelchair bound, drinking and fiber out of vegetables and fruits is important. But if that is not helping, we try psyllium husks. I don't know if you have this in the US. Okay, you do. So the thing is, they are high in fiber, and the recommendation that we have is to take 1 tablespoon of psyllium husks in your, for example, in your cereal or in a glass of milk or in water, and drink a cup of water to it because they soak all of the water and they make your bowel movement better and the stool much, not so hard. So try this with a glass of water, and this should help. You can have 1 tablespoon, and if this doesn't help, 1 tablespoon more in the evening. And if this doesn't help, 1 tablespoon more in the to lunch. But 3 would be the total. I think I wouldn't go up more to more. Yeah. So
Yes. So yeah, there's a few Benefiber or Metamucil are brands that we would use to kind of they're made up of the what you were talking about.
okay.
The other question I'm seeing, sorry, I'm on the chat. Um,
There was something about protein. Maybe you can.
Protein. Yeah, there's a lot of questions about protein. So, yes, unfortunately, there are not a lot of studies about specific to this condition. Even a lot of neuromuscular disorders, um, there's not a lot of good data for that. Um, the RDA for protein is by age. So Daniela did cover RDA for protein for adults. For kids, it's a little bit different. If you're undergoing a stage of where you're growing or you're supposed to be growing, you need a lot more protein. So the RDA for protein for adults is for adults who are not getting taller, adults who are maintaining their weight. It's not for the RDA for protein is for like if you're trying to maintain a baseline status and you're trying to prevent losing muscle mass as you age. For us, like we like to say, yes, you probably do need a little bit of extra protein with your condition, but you by no means, we don't think you need like double the protein or triple the protein compared to another adult. For kids, it is a little bit different again, but kids are smaller, so grams per day is not going to be a huge difference for kids. So for some kids, we go up to like 1.6 grams per kilo per day, but those are kids who are like they're going through puberty and they're growing and gaining. So it's a little bit different. Um, and so yes, I think a lot of people do feel like, hey, I need this amount of protein, or they don't feel as good. Um, I have seen some studies um, about using like protein recovery drinks. So after there was a question about like strenuous events, so we would recommend that. So like if let's say you are kind of helping to boost your recovery, having additional protein can definitely help. A lot of times, like um, if you're bed bound, there's a few studies in adults that show if you're in a hospital and you're bed bound, your protein needs need to go up because if you don't consume the protein, then you're going to lose a lot of muscle mass. So I think it is very important to have protein after recovery, after a surgery, anything that is like a high amount of stress to your body. So we recommend a lot of like protein shakes before surgery, protein shakes after a surgery to help your body recover. Because if you're not feeling good after, you're probably not eating enough. So we recommend that.
And there was one question: why do people with neuromuscular diseases don't consume more protein than people without these conditions? Because when we're talking about healthy adults and except the neuromuscular disease, there is no evidence that more whole protein helps more, because the the reason for the condition is a genetic one and not a deficiency in protein. So the recommendation is just to get enough protein, just like any other person in general, because it's the basis for your muscles, but it's not the cure for the disease. No. Yeah. So we have.
So we are almost at 2 o'clock, so we are going to have to end it here. If anybody has questions, please feel free to email me, and I am more than happy to send the questions over to Jessica and Daniela. Jessica and Daniela, thank you both so much for participating in today's webinar. Your knowledge and expertise have been incredibly valuable and enlightening, and we truly appreciate you taking the time to share them with us. Before we wrap up, I'd also like to mention our next two webinars. The first one will be August 17th with Dr. Sheila Riazi for a webinar on a new framework for assessing and managing malignant hyperthermia risk. And on September 15th, we'll welcome Dr. Andrew Marks and Dr. Van Petegem for a webinar on the RYR1 mutations in statins, what clinicians and patients should know. If you have any suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover for future webinars, please fill out the Google form available on our website on the webinar page. We'd love to hear your ideas and feedback. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you found this webinar helpful and informative, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you all. We really enjoyed getting the chance to speak. We love talking about nutrition and food, so thank you so much.
Yeah, also from my side. Thank you so much and all the best for you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.